You know what? I want to start early today because I'm really excited to chat with you all and see how your week is going. And also, I've got my new mic today, so I'm hopefully only arrived like 20 minutes ago. So hopefully, it won't be hitting me in the face as it's got less accessories on it, and hopefully, the sound is pretty good. But more back to you and how your week is going. It is Tuesday. I hope you've had a good week so far. And I hope you've contributed to open source and learned something new, as well as shared something that you know with somebody else. Always kind of giving back to the community is really important. I always find that's a really good way that I learn. I don't realize how little I know something until I try to explain it. And then once I explain it to someone, I think, actually, you know what? That was really hard. I didn't know it as well as I thought. And the questions they ask also really help me think about how I can explain it better in the future. Jennifer says, glad it's Tuesday. Yeah, it's hopefully a good week for everybody. Just catching up on the messages. I did have this one. Azing got here first, I think like 10 or 15 minutes before, like really, really early. Awesome to have you all here. And it's quite funny how people try and come first. I think that's pretty funny. So, but amazing to have you all here. And I know I've seen and chatted with you all, or quite a few of you on Discord, about some of the challenges that you're working on at the moment, be it AWS, be it Linux, be it Git, and so forth. And then I've seen people help each other out and some of the successes that you've had as well. And I think that's just really awesome to see that and to see people growing. Because I know I've been growing all the time, and now my client work is reducing. I do have more meetings and discussions for kind of the pipeline of future client work, but I'm hoping to get a lot more community work done. And I have some big plans. I've been sharing that with you as I go along. Jennifer says, my open source contributions was asking Ganesh, hopefully I've pronounced it right, why I don't have a command line help on the Truffle site. Yeah, command line help is so important. Absolutely, I do agree. Hey, Ben. Hey, Jose. D-Raj, no guests today. No, I do have lots of guests planned, but none for today. I will organise some for later in the week. You've reminded me, so thank you very much. You've reminded me to... I've got loads of guests lined up, but to actually kind of pencil some in for this week would be really good. By the way, how is the audio, everybody? I've made 2 changes. So one, new mic, and 2, I've actually put a noise gate. And what that means is if I don't speak, it shouldn't send any sounds. It should be like dead silent, rather than you might get like a little humming or hissing sound. But sometimes the downside of that is it cuts off at the beginning and at the end of when I talk. But let me know how it is. I've just had a play with that. Anything below kind of minus 60 dB, I've told it not to send through. So I'm still learning. So hopefully the settings are good and hopefully the sound is good. So we'll see. Vamsi, good. How are you? Every time I see Vamsi's name now, I think of Ionic. So I won't forget, which is really good. But if I do, remind me, because I do have a terrible memory and I am really keen to get some more content. But I do have a long list of videos that I want to do this week. And I can't blame, Andrew today for as my long list of videos I want to do. I can't blame Andrew for I wasn't late today, but for being a bit distracted. It was the new mic. And I've been waiting a few weeks for it because stock is really low on AV equipment as well at the moment. I think everyone wants to do it. Andrew, how are you doing? I know Andrew will give me an honest answer. Andrew, how is my new microphone? It arrived 20 minutes ago and I was frantically setting it up. I've got cables. I don't know if you can see if I switch to this angle. I don't know if you can kind of see on my desk lots of 5-6 meter cables just to go like 10 centimeters. So let me know how the audio is. And I think there is a slight hum, but I'm hopefully cut that out. But yes, good to have everyone here. And what's everyone's challenges for this week? And how can I help you? I'm hoping you're going to be contributing more to open source. I know, Jennifer said she made a contribution by asking a project to have command line help. And I think those sort of contributions are really helpful, and my projects do welcome them. And I'm sure many others do as well. My one recommendation on that, though, is if you're making a suggestion, try and search the historic issues on GitHub and see it in that project and see if someone else has made that suggestion already, because then you can, rather than having 2 issues or 3 issues, you can kind of reinforce the importance of the other issue. And by putting a comment on that issue saying, I agree with this and giving it a thumbs up, it brings that issue to the top of the list, and people get re-notified about how important it is. That's how some places manage their projects. It's about how many people want that feature. If it's only that one person, then they're less likely to do it. It depends on the size of the project and how busy they are. So, but I love it that everyone's welcome each other in the chat. And like I've always said, I'm really keen to bring everyone together and for me to start the conversation, and then you all kind of continue it. But let me talk a bit more about my week. I want to kind of bring you into kind of how my week has been and the challenges and successes I've had. Andrew and me were actually writing a proposal, a CFP, for a talk that we want to encourage people and encourage companies more to upgrade from Angular 1 up to the latest Angular 9, because Angular 1 stops being supported next summer. And so the importance of that, I think, is really important. So we're actually going to give like a 1-hour talk on that. And I do want to submit some other talks, but that's one we've got focused at the moment. I think without you swapping between options, you can't say which is better. True. Well, I hope this one is better. It's supposed to be better. On paper, it's a lot better. Perhaps if you were in a massive hall on stage, you'd notice it too. There are so many hiss and hums around from electronic cables. I can't tell if it's you. Yeah, true. I mean, I have so many cables in this room. It's difficult to know where it's coming from as well. What I'm noticing though is when you you smacking your lips as if as you talk more now. Okay, smacking my lips. Not sure what smacking my lips is. It's not that kind of show, Andrew. So we put a proposal together. And there's lots of online events going on. So I think lots of places are looking for people to submit talks. Hey, Eddie, have you interviewed anybody? Oh, I've missed out some comments. Sorry, Luke. Luke, good to have you here. How are you doing? How is your startup going, Luke? I hope it's going well. Eddie, I love this mic. Can't wait to get it. Have you ordered it as well? So yeah, this is the Shure SM7B, which apparently Michael Jackson used to record Thriller. So it's an old mic, but it is one of the most popular ones. I think Joe Rogan uses it for the podcast. It's very popular. It's meant to be very good. So I'm hoping it improves my audio. I'm sure there's lots of other improvements I can make in the setup and use of it as well. Vamsi, have I interviewed anyone for a job interview? Yes, I interview hundreds of people, lots and lots of people. So I've done that. I've done it badly 10, 15 years ago, and have more recently got a lot better. I've interviewed people from interns. I've hired my own interns for my own startup. I've hired all the way to lead developers, senior developers, lead developers, test managers, development managers, scrum masters. I've hired plenty for myself and for client projects. So let me know if you have any questions, and I can shed some light on that. I know Andrew's done a lot of hiring as well, so we could shed some light on that if that's helpful. Diraj says there is a slight hissing and hum I can hear. Okay, interesting. I haven't tweaked the settings too much. I have only just got the mic, so I will need to tweak things a bit, I'm sure. Stephen says there isn't a hum at the noise floor for me, but yeah, all plosives and P's are very pronounced, and the gate would be needed for all the lip movement noise. High gain for sure. Yes, I forget, Stephen, you're really into your audio, so I can definitely ask you lots of questions. I have got into the SM7B, I have got the cloud lifter, so it is adding 20 decibels, which is supposed to be quite clean. That allowed me to have on the Zoom H6. It come down from like a 9 or a 10 all the way down to a 3 or a 4, I think is what it's on. So there is still room to increase the gain, but that hiss becomes too obvious. So I need to just tweak some more settings, I think, as well. Steven, we might have to do some tests, and you might have to give me some tips, but I'll do some research first online and see how it goes. Luke says startups going well, one sales call this week and one next week. Yeah, I think it's really good to have that, I guess, little and often. You don't want a massive amount of sales. I have a friend who's got a startup which was in the aviation business, and in this moment in time, it's actually really difficult for her and her startup. So it was kind of a critical time. She got loads of stock that she wants to sell. It's about reducing jet lag and having the right nutrients and a drink and that sort of stuff. So it's a real shame that it's really affected her business. So they've gone more into just the healthy lifestyle. They've pivoted a bit as well with the current situation. Let me see the chat. What happens if you start humming Thriller by the end of the stream? Does that mean then you have the unwanted? don't know if I could hum it, and it'd probably get me like, I don't know, blacklisted on YouTube. What is your startup, and can we apply for a role in it? Vamsi, my startup is actually an open source startup. It's called Dashboard Hub. I've talked about it before. I've actually put it on pause at the moment until I've got so many things ongoing that I couldn't focus on it. So I've put it on pause. Half the team have kind of left now. They were on it for about a year and a half, but I am going to pick it up again soon. And when I do want to pick it up, where I'll be hiring from is the people who contribute to it on the open source side. So I do recommend having a look at that and seeing if you want to get involved in the open source side. And when I do pick it up again, I will probably give it a reboot. I do want to rewrite some of the code. Then where I hire from first is the people who contribute. And that's why I keep telling everyone, if you want to work for a particular company, contribute to their open source, engage with their social media, mostly on the more technical platforms like GitHub or Dev.io, where they write blog posts and all the rest. So I think that's really important. You need to be on their radar, because when they hire, the first place they're going to look is their community, and especially the ones that engage in a particular technology. Harsh says, hi Eddie, I finally started using ASCII Doctor. Awesome, for my Git Basics repo. Using your book to learn stuff. How do I host it on GitHub pages? That's a really good question. I actually have today this working. So this should now come across. Yes, I actually have it working. So I was tweaking some settings with Andrew yesterday and I messed it all up. So how do you host it on GitHub pages? Remind me, is your project written it's in Markdown, right? So if it's written in Markdown, you need ASCII Doctor to generate a website from that, and then you can deploy that. So if you look at my ASCII, my open source book repo, then in the, I think a make file will show you the commands that you need for that. And that's actually a really good question. I'm interested to know how you get on with that. And your project's open source as well, so I can see your progress as I go along. But yes, I would have a look at that. Look at the make file and the CI. So the CI gets triggered on every change, but then I think I've got that using a make file, which I don't use so much anymore. But the make file, you'll see all the Linux commands that it runs. So hopefully that helps. Go have a look at that now if you want, and then come back with any particular questions that you have, and I can probably bring up some code on the screen. I have to remind myself that project was a long time ago. Diraj, yeah, Eddie, tell us about Dashboard Hub. So, okay, Dashboard Hub is a real-time dashboard where you can where you can look at the heartbeat of your projects. So a project could consist of multiple repositories, and the idea is you can see the heartbeat of your project and the different repositories in real time. So it takes the hooks from GitHub in real time, processes them, and displays them on the dashboard. I do need to do a lot more work on that, and I do need to reboot that project and probably rewrite a bit of the code base. Did things quickly because I had events coming up that I was exhibiting at and sponsoring, so I really had to rush a lot of things and cut a lot more corners than I wanted to. So I will go back and revisit a lot of that project, and I will do that on the live stream, so you will see how I get on. I've got to get my head around it first. Interesting, when you look away from the mic, it did get very quiet by comparison. Yeah, I'm hoping when I look away from the mic, it does get a lot quieter. That's the idea of this mic, so hopefully you don't get too much background noise. So when the wife shouts at me, you don't you don't hear her shout at me. So the mic perhaps works well for a talk show, less so perhaps when you're moving around coding. Yeah, I don't know. I could move my keyboard. I have to try it, right? I have to do some coding live streams, and I'll have to try it. I'm actually going to do some coding videos today and tomorrow, so that will be quite interesting to see how that goes. Have to see. I agree. Tell us more. This is Jose. I agree. Tell us more about the startup and how we can help you organize the development. So I think it's probably, I say it's a bit early. The project's been going for a couple of years now. But I'm keen for people to get involved. It's open source, 100% open source. The planning board, documentation, tests, code, everything is open source. But I'm actually really keen to reboot it with just me first, so I can kind of organize the foundations. There are improvements that I want to make, and then I want to welcome the community more to use it and contribute to it. So maybe ask me next week, and hopefully I'll get time to reboot it. I've got so many things on the go at the moment. So, Discord bot, I want to get kind of like a really simple bot running. And then I've got also the gaming platform with Andrew, and I've got my Dashboard Hub. I've spent a lot of money on Dashboard Hub, hiring people over the last couple of years, sponsoring events with it. So I do need to focus on that. And sponsoring the events, got awareness out there and allowed me to get feedback, but I do need to really focus on improving the code base and adding more features that I want. For example, now only supports open source projects and not private projects. The reason for that is when people get removed from the organization or from the project as a collaborator, I need to make sure that they are removed from viewing the project on Dashboard Hub for security reasons. So I need to listen to all those hooks and those permission hooks, and I never got around to doing that. That's why it's only for open source at the moment. Harsh says ADOC files. Not sure what you mean. I use ADOC files in that project, but you can also use MD files. It works the same. ADOC files gives you a lot more functionality, but you can still use it with Markdown with your project, and you can always convert it later on if you want to, or leave it in Markdown. So Markdown, you kind of get like, I don't know, 8 or so different things you can do, like H1, like hash1, 2 hashes, and so forth. But in ASCII docs or in ADOC files, you can get a lot more. You can get, I don't know, probably like, I don't know, 50 different things you can do from not tooltips, not like when you hover a tooltip appears, but kind of like a block that shows a tip icon or a warning icon, and you can have some text next to it and so forth. Eddie, you should have participated in Google Summer of Code. I think I will probably next year, although timing wise, I think this year is pretty good, but my project's not in the place where I want it to be. I want to get it into a really good foundation, and then I want to encourage more people participating. So yeah, I think it was too rushed to get it to where it was. But Google Summer of Code, I'm not 100% familiar with it. I do roughly know the idea about it. So a friend of mine, Praveen, is involved in that. I think he's mentoring. But let us know more about it. If you know more about it, we're really interested to know if anyone knows more about Google Summer of Code. I think you apply with a project and then you mentor people, and that's kind of as far as my limit kind of understanding goes. What is it? How to crack it, etc. How to crack it? Not sure what you mean on that, Diraj. How do I set up CI, Eddie? Use GitHub Actions. On my project, I use Travis CI because GitHub Actions wasn't around at the time. So I recommend using GitHub Actions. It's really that simple. I actually want to do a video on GitHub Actions, but all you need to do is go to the tab on GitHub Actions. Let me. Would it help if I shared my screen? Let me bring my my screen across, and let's have a look and see. So I'm going to do some kind of coding typing. Let's see how the microphone holds up while I do this. I could probably, I don't think I have time in the stream and my memory is so bad, but could move my project to use GitHub Actions, but I won't for now. So if I share using my screen, hopefully you see my screen. I have 616 followers. Come on, everyone, follow me on GitHub. We need to get some more. It will encourage me to do more open source contributions. So if I go to my open source book tips, here I'm using Travis YAML, and these are the steps it does. Ignore these ones. This is integrating into the Dashboard Hub platform. So what I do is I install ASCII docs. So you probably need something very similar to this. You'd need to install ASCII Doctor, and if you want to generate a PDF, you need this, but you probably don't need the PDF version for now. Just worry about the website. I just show the version number just so I can know what it looks like, and then I run the make command, and this is for the deployment. So worry about that afterwards. So if we go too far back, if we go to the make, and what make does by default is I think it runs all. So it'll reset, run assets, and this is where I copy images over, and then it run HTML. This is what you want to do. I have different language. I have Spanish and Filipino. So what you probably need is just the first one, which is what you would want, is your file that you want to build, and then the output destination of where you want it to go. And then it should at least start building, get that working locally. And then when you go to CI, all you have to do is go up to actions up here. And then you can just set up the workflow yourself. And the commands that you run locally to get it building, you would just put on CI. And that's something that I could move, and something I should probably move to using. So I think I really rate GitHub Actions. It's really awesome. I mean, who else has used GitHub Actions? Write in the chat that you have. So hopefully that helps. So I would get it working the way you want locally, and then put it on CI one step at a time. So locally get it building the website that you want, and then and then get CI to do it, and then you can then get the deployment working to GitHub pages. Stephen says the mic does come with a WifeGate plugin bundle in the box, Andrew. WifeGate. Eddie, can you summarize ASCII docs and why you use it, like it, dislike it? It's new to me. Oh, it's just amazing. It really is amazing. Their site explains it reads like ASCII. It's not really clear. No, not at all. So ASCII docs, that's a really good question. I need to probably, I could bring it up on the screen, but I won't for the moment. So the reason why it's so great is Markdown's awesome for documentation, but it's very limited in what it can do. It is quite basic. But if you do, say, let me see, if you do ASCII docs, so if I pick an example like index.adoc, GitHub still renders it. So you still get all the benefits and you get all the links, you get all this sort of stuff. But the bigger benefit you get a lot more. You can include files, so you can now separate your project, make it more modular. You can separate it, you can put page breaks. I mentioned doing tips. So actually, if I go to the deployed version of this website, you'll actually see, and I make it bigger. So the table of contents generation is generated by ASCII Doctor. And then you obviously can style this with CSS. You get tips like this. There should be an icon there, but obviously I haven't copied over the icon. There's some mistake there. And what else? Let's see. There's so many things you can do. You can do that. These quotes. It is just really, really awesome. The things and functionality that you can do. You can include snippets from your code base, which I think is epic. I don't think I've got one here. Is it? So for example, you can actually include code from your project. So when that function or whatever it is changes, then it updates it in your documentation. So it's very cool. And if I scroll down to the bottom, you can get a PDF from it as well. So therefore, it also auto-generates a PDF from the same information. It creates the table of contents that you can click and go to, and it does all this sorts of stuff. So it is very, very awesome. And you can start off with Markdown and then add more to it later on by moving to ASCII docs. So ASCII docs is the formatter, and ASCII Doctor is the library that builds it into a website or into a PDF or into a mobile, like a Mobi. You can do lots of things. But hopefully that answers that question. But it is really, really awesome. And you can use plugins with ASCII Doc like Mermaid. Oh, Andrew, I forgot about that. That is so true. Like, that is so, so true. So let me think. Have I got an example anywhere? So basically, there are diagrams that you can write as code. And let me explain it. Bear with me. Let me go to ASCII Doctor diagrams. And if I go to their documentation on this, and I'll pick a particular one, Mermaid's one of my favorites. And what you can do on this Mermaid project is it has a command line interface, has lots of awesome stuff. You can generate SVGs, PNGs, PDFs, all that sort of stuff. But also have an online editor. So I want to try and find an online editor. Where that online editor is, it should be on their documentation. Let me see. Live editor, here we go. Why don't they have a link up here? They need to speak to me. Should be a link somewhere. I cannot find it, but let me go. Mermaid. What is it? It's like live editor or something like that. Here we go. So from a bit of this is probably really small and make it bigger. From a little bit of you can do a flow diagram, you can do a sequence diagram, and sequence diagrams are really popular. I know this there is not very responsive, so it's covering the diagram, so I'll remove that in a second. But just want to show you can write kind of Alice, and you've got this formatter to John, and then you can use same again, and if you double lines, it's different. So if I just make that smaller again, you can kind of see what it does with the sequence diagrams, and it can generate this as a PDF, SVG, and then you can add it into your code, and you add this into your documentation. Sorry, not your code. And then what it does, it will generate an image in place of that. So it's just like super, super awesome. So you can treat your documentation like code. It can get reviewed as pull requests. It can so much. There's different diagrams you can do. State, Gantt. I use the Gantt one a lot. Pi. I mean, there is just so many. They also have a Git log one now as well, I think, if I remember from their documentation. If I go back, they do, if I go to their examples, they do have Mermaid. I think it was Git log or something. They're adding features all the time, and one of their examples that they've added is, scroll to the bottom. Here you go. Now, what you've got, if I make it larger, you've got this sort of Git log sort of style, which is really awesome. So it's very cool. But thank you, Andrew, for reminding me about that. That is awesome. Jose says, do you know of any tools that understand commit standards, so have a UI to filter comments by feature, docs, refactor bugs? Git commit standards are awesome, by the way. Do you know any tool that understands commit standards? So the one that Andrew and me use is conventional changelog. Conventional changelog. I'm not sure if that's the one you mean. So what you do with this, if I go to, where's their examples? I want to show you what it generates. So we've talked about in the past about having certain commit messages where it's a chore or it's docs and the module that it belongs to and the issue number it relates to. But I actually want to show you what it generates, which is really awesome. And I am struggling to find it. Let me go back a few pages. Oh, one too many. So this is their website, which is really good. But I want to show you what it generates because it is just really, really nice. I mean, Angular uses it. So if I pick Angular as an example, here's projects that use it. But I know Angular uses it as well. So if I open Angular, let's see, do they have an example? Andrew, you might have to find one and share a link to it. Let me see. Or it should generate it actually as part of CI, so it should be a changelog file. Here we go. Yes, this is what generates. Here's a good example. So put your bug fixes in there. It will say what module it was fixed, and it will talk about the issue number, description issue number. So these ones were all fixed in core, and some were fixed in the language service, etc. And then you've got breaking changes, and this gets generated every time. So it'll append to your changelog each time, so people can find the one that's important to them. I think that's really important. But Jose, hopefully that answers your question. Diraj, by crack it, I mean how to convince companies to select you for Google Summer of Code. I don't know much about Google Summer of Code. So I'm not sure actually how it works. So companies select what, the people or select the projects? You'll have to elaborate more. Sorry, I don't know much about that. I should actually get someone from Google. I know quite a few people from Google, and I'm sure some of them could shed some light on how it works and all the rest. Yeah, Andrew says you have things like conventional changelog. Yeah, so I think it's a good example to talk about, and a lot of projects do use it. It's pretty awesome. Stuart says, I've started using GitHub Actions. Stuart, how is it going? GitHub Actions is just freaking awesome. So yeah, let me know what you think about it. Yeah, you can also use GitHub Actions, do pre-commit hooks and check commit messages, etc. Yeah, and there's things like Husky, a friend of ours uses, that can have like a pre-commit check. I don't like things that people have to, I guess, install and set up locally. I'd rather have something on CI and also on GitHub Actions. I mean, if I go back to sharing my screen again, also for GitHub Actions, there is a marketplace where you can get things that check like your commit messages. So I think if I search for lint, there is a commit lint I did see recently and it looked quite interesting. Let me see if I just do. So it can fail the build if it doesn't match. Yeah, so you got commit linter, and this is how you would run it on as part of your GitHub Actions. So you can just kind of go use the latest, and it's really interesting. And so you can fail the rest of the pipeline if your lint isn't matched. Yes, it's a bit late. To find it locally is probably better because then you haven't done a commit and a push, but at least people can't turn it off. So it's quite interesting, and there's ways to configure it and so forth. So yeah, do definitely check out the GitHub marketplace. There are lots of things available to use, and they have all the filters down the side, which is quite interesting. Most of them are free from what I've seen. There does seem to be a paid option on some of them, but usually that's to store your data for a longer period of time. But yeah, GitHub Actions is pretty cool. Steven says Travis CI, Circle CI, GitLab, they have example files in lots of cases. Yeah, they do. I think they have lots. I think GitHub has actually done probably the better job of examples and documentation from what I've seen. And it's a lot newer to the market, which usually means the documentation isn't so great. But yeah, Circle CI and Travis CI and so forth, they do have lots of docs and examples. I suggest people just get started with something simple, even if it is just hello world, and just make sure that it's runs on the right branch and on every commit, and then you can add more fidelity to it, as we've spoken about a lot of times before in the past. By the way, everyone watching, thank you so much for taking an hour out of your day to be here. We're already halfway through our lunchtime live stream, and let me know what you'd like to chat about in the chat, and we'll get to it. But don't forget to give me a thumbs up with the video. It really helps support the channel. So we also have Jennifer says, "Oh, that's pretty." Pro tip for sure, ASCII docs. Yes, ASCII docs and ASCII Doctor is just really, really nice. I mean, their quick start for ASCII docs is massive. So if I give you, and if I go to, say, not even the diagram section on ASCII docs, if I go to their docs, so that's quite small for you. Let me make that bigger. If you just look at their kind of getting started, and then not installing, but actually writing, like quick reference syntax. Look at the table of contents on that. It's just massive. But it is just awesome. The things you can do, kind of the code blocks with code syntax highlighting. There's just so many awesome things that you can do, and it's just. Yeah, and it shows you what to write, and then you click View Result, and it shows you underneath of how it will look. So you can do all sorts of things. Footnotes. There's loads of things, and it is compatible, as you can see, with Markdown. Oh, I wasn't showing my screen. That's really stupid. Thanks, Harsh. You reminded me. So all I did was, if I go right to the top, and what I did was on their website, go to docs, and then I went to getting started, and then they have a quick reference down here, and this is their quick reference. You can see all the things they have, and like I said, you can include files, which I think is really important, but you can also, like if I go down to here, you can click on View Results, and you get to see how it is generated, and with footnotes if you're referencing someone else's work, and then it is Markdown compatible as well. I mean, there are so many things that you can do. I mean, it is just, yeah, really, really awesome. I do really like this. And it still renders on GitHub, so it's pretty cool. Lael, how you doing? Long time no see. How is your open source project going, and how is that going? How is Kotlin going? We've still got to plan our Kotlin versus Ionic kind of combat, and we'll both build an Android app, a really simple one. So we'll read an API. We'll agree on the API maybe, and then we'll see who can. Who's kind of, we'll have maybe some categories, like whose looks better, whose it was quicker to write, which one was easier, and we can get people watching the stream to review it, or to not review it, to vote on it. I think that would be pretty cool. So yeah, we still need to organize that. I'm still working out the logistics, and Andrew's being my guinea pig to see how we can share different people's screens and so forth. So yeah, we need to have a think and see how that works. Jose, but would it prevent a commit from going to the remote repo? I think if it's on GitHub Actions, a commit needs to happen for GitHub Actions to run. So I don't think it can prevent the commit. It can prevent the rest of the build from running, and it can prevent it from being merged into, say, the development branch. But I don't think in the feature branch it can, or bug fix branch, or whatever it is, I don't think it can be stopped from going into that branch. As far as I know, I haven't used that kind of marketplace plugin yet, so I'm not sure. But as far as I know, you would need a commit and a push to trigger the GitHub Actions. I think like with any CI. Saw one of your videos. Yeah, we're going to encourage Lael to do more videos. I think it'd be really awesome. We're going to encourage everybody to do more videos. I think that'd be very cool. Harsh says ASCII Doctor is amazing. Yeah, it is really cool. If the action fails, has an error, the commit is rejected. Well, let me bring one up and see. I mean, I'm using for Dashboard Hub, I am using GitHub Actions. I think I moved to it, if I remember correctly. But the commit still needs to go in. So if I go to, say, my environment, I've only got 2 on that. Okay, let's go to all. Let's find one that fails, right? So this one failed. This failed the build, but the commit had to go in for it to trigger the build in the first place. I think the workflow. So it's on the branch issues star. So it'll happen for, I'm not even sharing my screen again. I forgot, damn it. So I've just gone to this open source project I was talking about, Dashboard Hub, Pipeline Dashboard, and I use GitHub Actions on that. I've just picked a failing build. Thanks, Harsh. Yeah, I think I got there at the same time as you. I just went, so this is the project. Let me start at the beginning. This is the project that some of you have seen before, and I went to GitHub Actions, and then I just picked one failing one here now. And like I said, I need to reboot this project, so there hasn't been a lot of movement on it in a while. And if I pick the failing build, I just want to show you the workflow file, which is in the project under this directory. But it has to happen on a push to a branch that I've said, not any branch, but any branch that is issue hyphen and then a wildcard star. So you need to do the commit and push. So it rejects the build for all the, but you still have to do that commit. Yeah, so I still need to do the commit and push to make it go to make the CI, be it GitHub Actions or another one, to trigger. But we can experiment. We can see what we can do. Angular material is not Angular itself. Okay, do both. Sorry, Andrew, I've missed that. I can't remember which one I picked. Whatever the link sent me to. But you're right. Material is different to Angular. There is an Angular wrapper to use it quite easily and nicely. Jose says, thanks for the response. I'll check out the commit linter later in GitHub Actions. Yeah, check it out and let us know how you get on. Be interested to know. And it's always really good to see what other people are using or trying and see what works for them, see what doesn't work for them. So do let us know. Stuart, so far I'm finding GitHub Actions to be great. Yeah, me too. It's freaking awesome. I'm building. I've got one building and deploying to Heroku and Node.js. I think I've got more commits to get it working than for actual code, though. Yeah, but it does happen. You've got to keep committing to test it. I mean, you could do it. I've seen some places, if you don't want that awful history, you could create a branch and make sure that your CI is looking at that branch or all branches and continually push to that branch. So you might get, 30, 40 commits to that branch. And once it's working, squash that branch, merge it into your mainline branch, and then delete that branch. So you only get that one commit of get CI working rather than have a dirty history. I'm quite guilty of having a dirty history, but if you do want a clean history, there is a way to do that. And yes, you could do it after in that mainline branch, but I wouldn't recommend it because anyone who's forked the project or cloned it, it'll mess up. If you rewrite history, it'll mess it up for them. So I would recommend definitely doing it in a branch and fixing it before it goes into the main line. But GitHub Actions is pretty cool. I need GitHub Actions deploying to GCP for me, so that's something I need to work on the next couple of days. And I have kind of got something working with the EddieBot, but it's deploying it and it runs, but then it doesn't seem to run, although it runs. It says ready and it's running, it doesn't seem to work. So I need to just have a look into that and check that out. And also it deploys it to a different project that I thought it would do. It gave it a weird name rather than the name that I gave it. It's something I need to look into. It's probably some config issue. What should I learn for? Samar Pan, hopefully I pronounced your name right. What should I learn first, Angular or React? I mean, there's just so many variables. They're very, very different. If you want to build a small blog, then yeah, React good, and you can use it at hackathons. If you want to, it's location specific as well, but for example, in Europe, in the fintech, for any big projects, people use Angular more, but for smaller projects, they use React. And I think in the States, React, I think, is more popular, even for big projects. But I can't speak about the US. React is very popular because it used to be, I think, easier to learn, but with Angular now and their CLI that can generate a lot of the code for you, you can get a project up and running just as quickly. And you just learn what you need from the framework, because Angular being a framework has a lot more available to you, whereas React being a library, you have to use a lot of third parties. So you still have to learn a lot more. You have to learn and research, well, what HTTP client should I use? Which one's better? Is it kept up to date, etc. Whereas in Angular, you have it built in, so it's quite nice. You can use other ones, but you'd want the one that is always up to date and officially kept up to date and to a high standard. I went through the quick reference docs. Yeah, that's what I do, Harsh, as well. On the ASCII docs, ASCII docs, I go through the quick reference as well. My suggestion might be biased, but go for view, but let Eddie comment on it. No, D-Raj, I think that's a really good. I should bring these up on the screen. These are really good good comments. So yeah, let me bring them up on the screen, and we can all discuss it more. Because I think having different opinions is really important, and people who have different experiences, I think is really useful. So the question was, let me see if I can find it. Here we go. If I bring this up now. So the question was, should I learn Angular or React, or Vue should be in there? They're, I guess, the main three players. I don't have a lot of experience with Vue, but I hear it's pretty awesome. I suppose if I could go back, Vue is something I'd spend more time on. But I don't see a lot of projects in the UK using Vue that I'm aware of. It mostly seems to be React and Angular, React for the startups. And then for the bigger kind of fintechs, government, all those sorts of bigger projects or enterprise projects, it's more Angular. So it really depends. Kotlin for life. That's what I say. Bring that up too. So I don't know why your picture's not showing. Yeah. So I think it's an opinion, and you just look at your personal circumstances as well, where you want to work and so forth. Squashing up your initial prototyping is a good way to make it look like you're not a loser at the start. That's so good. I need to bring that up. I think I like to show this. So for me, I'm like, I don't mind if the history is a bit dirty, but you're right. You can kind of remove all that as you're figuring out like what the hell is this new npm package, like an ORM or something. Yeah, true. I mean, we all go through that phases when we add a third party in, or we're connecting something new. You get all those commits of trying out loads of different things. So you could do that in a branch and then squash it as you bring it in. I made a very over-engineered thing for concept.js functional browser testing to change browser resolution for mobile, and it was a one-line change to enable this. Yeah, I think everyone's been there, and everyone's done it, and that's how we learn, I think. And that's why I think I don't like the word years experience, because you get people who have done the same year for 20 years. So I don't think that's very useful. I've still only got 1 year experience. But from experience, if you are experiencing new things, then you are getting more experienced. And those are one of the things you learn. So I think that's important that you've gone through that, because you wouldn't do it again. You'd be more cautious in the future. You wouldn't do it on another project you'd work on. You might do it, and there might be a specific reason to do it. But I think the important thing is you've made that, I don't want to say mistake, because it's not a mistake, but you've had that experience, and you won't do it, say, on the project that, if I was interviewing you and I was hiring you, then on the project that I'm working on. So that's why I like to see people talk about these mistakes that they've made, because I know they've been there and done that, rather than might make the mistake on the project that we're potentially going to work on together. So I think that's important. So in the interview, it's not just about your successes, it's also about talking about your failures, because you learn from those. And I think that's important. I remember back in the day, and you probably remembers this as well, showing our age, 10 years ago, when, maybe even more, like 15 years ago, or between 10 and 15 years, when kind of in the PHP world, there was a lot of framework battles that JavaScript's having now, but that we had it a long time ago, between Symfony, Zend, Cake, I can't remember some other ones as well. And everyone wanted to write their own framework, and they didn't really understand MVC design patterns and all those sorts of things. And when people used to say, I'm writing my own framework in an interview, if it was at the beginning stages, I'd be quite nervous. And a lot of them would say, well, let's use it on this project. It's like, no. Have you got any tests? No, you haven't. Have you got documentations? No, you haven't. So no, we're not using it on this project. But in an interview, if someone said, I wrote my own framework, I used it on a few projects, but realized I should just use one that is an industry standard, I think, right, okay, the person's been there, done that, got the t-shirt, got the badge, and it's they've got learned from it. It's a life experience. Whereas someone hasn't done that, I'm a bit worried they might try and do it on this project. So I think that's really good that you've been there, and I think that's not one thing to hide or shy away from. Harsh says, I like Vue, need to experiment more with it, but yeah, it's good. Nice. I need to look into it as well. There's too many things, not enough time to look into things. Oh my God, Stephen, that's such a good idea. No one shall know my struggles with new lips. Yeah, I think I don't know if people really look at the history a lot of the time. Anyway, I know I do sometimes when I'm interviewing people, but generally speaking, no. But yeah, you can hide the you can hide some of the struggles. I think you should keep some of them in there to keep it authentic. If it's too perfect, then I know someone's been hiding something. What sort of projects is Golang used for? Can it be used for mobile app development? Azing, I'm not sure if it can. I don't know much about Go. I know it's usually done for server side stuff because it's very fast with its concurrency model, and also it can be packaged up as a binary that doesn't need any dependencies. So when you package up for like a true binary, because when you package up, say, Java, you still need the JVM runtime installed to get it to run. Whereas with Go, you can package it up and it can run on Mac, Linux, or Windows. Alone as a package, you don't have to install anything, and that's one of its powerful things. I don't think you'd want to use it for a mobile, but I said that about JavaScript like kind of 10 years ago. So, who knows? So hopefully that answers that. And Azing, thank you very much for putting a Q in front of it. It does help me notice it and kind of stand out a bit more in the chat. Let me share a link, or I might just send it to Eddie, and he can share it here. What's the link for, Diraj? Yeah, the documentary is good. I've watched a good part of it. Oh, I must have missed something. Carl, hey, good to have you here, Carl. How are you doing? How are things all the way in the Far East? Hope everything is going well. I just installed Sentry today on our React Native app. Been an awesome experience so far. Sentry is the load testing tool, right? I think it wraps artillery, if that makes sense. I'm trying to remember now. I get confused with all the names. Remind me what Sentry is, or is it the logging platform that you can integrate with, and it just takes all your logs? I forget. The names are all so confusing. Sorab, hopefully I've pronounced that right. What are your thoughts about WordPress in the future? So, that's a good question. I think WordPress has it's like Marmite. You either love it or you hate it. And I think it had a bad rep over the years, but I think its core project is quite good. The reason why it gets a bad reputation is when people use third-party plugins, paid or free, but they're not kept up to date, and then therefore you get your systems at risk. Therefore, you can't update WordPress anymore because you're third-party. Kind of a bit like a React project, and I'm not going to say that too loud. I don't want too many people to hear. But because with WordPress you need to use so many third-party plugins, and with React you need to use so many third-party plugins, you get into that. You get held to ransom by your third-party dependencies. So if you're using WordPress and you're using official plugins or plugins that are managed by people or companies that keep it up to date, then I think it'd be fine. If you use some plugin by some Joe Blogs in the corner who will do an update every 10 years, then I think that's where you're at risk. But WordPress, it's not going to go away. A lot of places do use it to get a project up and running really quickly. So I think it is useful. And like I said, their community is really amazing from what I hear. But hopefully, Sarab, hopefully I pronounced your name right, and hopefully I've answered your question. I don't know if anyone else wants to chime in the WordPress conversation. I do know a few people from the WordPress community, and they are really a close-knit community. They do a lot of things, and they are always looking to push things forward and forward. So what else have we got? All my projects, Stephen says, all my projects use Vue at the minute. Okay. Low barrier to entry. It's heavily similar to or inspired by React and Angular. I'm not a front ender, and I can do peer review on these without knowing Vue very well. Yeah, I hear Vue is the best of both worlds. They got the best of Angular and the best of React. React's a library, and then Angular's a framework. And I understand that Vue kind of sits in the middle and it's got the best of both. So it is really interesting. It's not something I've looked into yet, but it is quite interesting. Got too many things to look into at the moment. They're writing apps in Go is what I heard, or did I misunderstand? I think that was the question, Jennifer. That can we write mobile apps with Go? And yeah, Go is Golang. Go is Golang for short. So I don't know if they're using it for mobile apps. I'm not too clued up on that ecosystem in the Go community. I went to FOSDEM a few years ago, well, actually quite a few times, but FOSDEM conference in Brussels, about kind of 11,000 developers on open source technologies. It's a free event. You can go, and they take over a whole university, and it's just freaking awesome and mesmerizing. Your mind just gets blown. But I went to a Go talk there. I wrote a little Go app. It reminded me a lot of C because to just read a file from disk, I had to have like 15 lines of code to open a socket, not keep a pointer, that's probably the wrong word, but kind of keep a resource open, and I do what I wanted to do to the file and then write it back and then end the resource. It just reminded me too much of old school stuff. I just wasn't too keen on that. I thought it was very low level for what I usually do in the web world. Yes, tell me the link came through. Diraj, where is the link? Where did you send it? And what is the link? Let me know. We've only got about 10 minutes left on this live stream, and I'm enjoying these conversations and questions. I'm loving that. Really enjoying it. Some great questions, great discussions, and awesome other people are coming up with feedback on the questions as well. So I think it's good to have that community, Q&A from all of us. Like I said, I'm here to start the conversation, enable the conversation within the community. But I don't have all the answers. Everyone watching, by the way, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. So thank you so much for being here and supporting the channel, but also a thumbs up would help too. If you haven't subscribed already, of course, you need to subscribe and hit the bell button so you get notified every time I go live and post a video. And there are some interesting videos coming out soon. I do have a list on Post-its, and they are kind of, falling down a bit here, but I do have a list. These are the ones just for this week. I have a bigger list, digital one, of ones I want to do. But I'm going to do some Git videos, GitHub videos, and what else do I have? Ionic. And yes, some of those videos coming up very soon. So let me know if there's any videos you'd like to see, or any videos you'd like to see, and or any collaboration you'd like me to do with anybody. I will get them on my channel. I do have about 20 people lined up to be on my channel. I've had a couple of people already. We had Janine last Friday, had Andrew last Thursday, had Dean, I think, last Monday. So we are keen to get people on my channel and share their experiences and share their challenges, and give them, you can ask them questions and you can get their opinions as well in addition to mine. So I do have people from Microsoft, from Google lined up. Andrew, who else do I have? I can't remember now. I've told Andrew all about this on our calls when we have our calls. But I do have a lot of people lined up from different communities, different places around the world, to give you different perspectives using different technologies. So I think that's really important to give you that different perspectives. Goes so quickly. It does, Jennifer. It really, really does. I mean, I can't. I don't know, 15 minutes before the live stream starts, I'm like, right, I've got to get set up, got an hour, we've got loads of things to discuss, and just before I know it, halfway through the ideas that I want to discuss, and it just goes through it just so quickly. But that's good, right? It means we're having fun and we're learning lots. Love the list. Thanks, Jennifer. It's a bit, it's on paper because I want to solve it in the next kind of few days. Harsh says, David East Eddie. Remind me who David East is. Can you share a link to or a handle to Twitter, and I can check him out and have a look and see. Stephen says, check out Vue's documentary and the story behind it for one of the very few frameworks documentations written in Mandarin, not translated. Oh, okay, interesting. That's really good. Jose got a question. Nice. Q at the front so I don't forget. Oh, I've missed Azing's question. Sorry, Azing. Let me come back to yours. The chat was moving too fast and I missed it. So Azing says, where does Ember.js sit in all talking about Vue, Angular, React? I haven't heard about Ember, or what were some of the other names? I mean, Andrew and me have discussed this in the past, but Ember and some of the other ones, I think Ember.js was around when Angular.js version 1 was around, and I don't think they really used that much more. Prototype.js, other frameworks or libraries, jQuery, they've all just kind of haven't kept up, I don't think. So I don't think Ember is still used. Samar Pan's also asking the question, is Ember still used? Not as far as I know. I don't think so. I haven't come across it in years. I really, really haven't. Jose, Eddie, could you mention and explain Git rebase, bisect, and all those advanced commands in your videos? Jose, I was only going to do some basic stuff, but I'm gonna make a note. Are you in our Discord, Jose? Can you send me a private DM and I will add that? I'll write it down now, but I might forget. But I think that's really good because bisect is really important. It's really helped me out. Rebase, I have mentioned rebase, but I'm gonna put bisect as well. I think that's the one, bisect. On my paper. I think that's a really good one because it has helped me out. When there has been an issue, it kind of, you go back in history for when it was working and then what it does. Let me bring that up on the screen and see where I lost my place. Here we go. Let me bring Jose. That's really, really good points. So Yeah, so let me see, it's up on the screen. It is. So yeah, so Bisect is if something's broken right now and in your code base and you can't find out where it is, you go back through your history and you jump a lot, like 10, 20 commits. You find out when it worked. And then once you've got a commit that's working, you use the Git Bisect it will jump around kind of 50% in the middle and you can check, does it work? If it doesn't work, it will jump back. If it does work, it jumps forward and it'll keep kind of jumping in the middle of each section. So your sections go from like being this big to being half to being half to being half to being half, and you can get closer on the culprit commit messages. So that has saved me a lot, and that is actually really useful. D-Rush says check Discord. What am I checking Discord for? It will, what do you call it? I'll get distracted by looking over there on Discord, and I haven't got much time left. We've got like 5 minutes left on the stream. Remind me what it's about. I sent you a link to the Vue.js documentary. Okay, cool. Let me grab that and see. So you want me to share this in the chat? Okay, I haven't watched. I'm sharing something I haven't watched. So, but I'm sure it's good. I trust people here in the community, so I'm sure it's good. Vue is super big in China due to the author is Chinese. So it could be interesting. That's good to know. D-Rush says, I'm looking into Flutter. Lady of I just think Flutter, I mean, it's got a huge, Flutter, a bit like React, become really, really popular, and it's got a really great community around it, and everyone's really excited about it. But I just don't know if it's what I would need. I still don't know what value it adds over something like Ionic. Ionic now works with React, Angular, and Vue and various frameworks as well. So just not sure. So have to see. That's something I should probably look into, or get someone from. I know people who work in the Flutter industry. They have reached out to me to do a collaboration, so maybe we can get them on the channel and see what they say and give their opinion, and we can kind of Q&A back and forth. Everyone I know has tried Flutter says it's not ready. That's not to say it won't be awesome, but it's still new. I think really the goal of Flutter is to compete with React Native. Interesting. Yeah, I just think it's still early days. Let's see. Whoa, Git Bisect is amazing. Well, hopefully Git Bisect is something you don't need, because that means something has kind of got into your code base that shouldn't be there, and then instead of fixing it very quickly or catching it on CI automated tests, then you've kind of moved on from it, and you've just let that sit there, and I think that's really bad. So hopefully something you don't really need. I've only used it kind of once or twice in like 10 years, so hopefully it's something that is not needed. But it is a very good feature, very good idea. Definitely Git Bisect is fantastic. It always blows my mind, if you pair program with someone, it should be Git renamed to Git Control Z, and that's what it does with the commits. Binary search. Samar Pan, what do you mean by binary search? Ionic is about building one code base and deploying it to web and mobile. Yeah, I think it's true. I don't know if that's something I would do. I wouldn't know if I'd use Ionic just for the mobile stuff. Have to see. So Ionic has drawbacks to maintain web support. Yeah, that's why I think I would use Ionic for the mobile stuff, and then keep on the web. I'd have maybe a PWA or something like that. But Flutter and React Native can access more device features, but then you cannot deploy to the web. Yeah, true. I think most projects actually don't need all those native stuff from the mobile, because even through web, you can still access the camera. But with Ionic, you can access a lot more. Bluetooth. I have a hackathon where I did iBeacons, and if you don't know what iBeacons is, what it is it's not by Apple. I don't know why it's called iBeacons, but allows you to put beacons around the shopping center, for example, and you could do so many clever things with it. So on your mobile, if you're within range on the mobile, you can send notifications if they've got the app installed, obviously. And you can also triangulate where people are. So as they break a barrier, go into a shop, if you've got a beacon on either side, as you walk through it, it knows that you've passed that threshold. And then that's if you're using 2. If you're using 3, you can triangulate where someone is in the room. If you're using 4, you can do even more. And these beacons are quite cheap, so you can plaster them all over the place. They have various sensors, temperature, humidity as well in them too. And I use the Ionic framework with Angular to integrate with those Bluetooth devices. And we actually won a couple of hackathons, 2 hackathons I won using those, because they're really quite interesting. I've actually got some beacons in the cupboard, so we could do a live stream just building a mobile app and having the beacons around my room, and I can kind of, switch to this camera, and I have got other cameras. Each screen does have a camera on top of it as well, so I could put up more cameras, and we could kind of walk around the room, and it shows you getting closer to one sensor or further away from another sensor and all the rest. But yeah, so it's really useful. The one challenge that I had though, and just to make people aware, when you're developing an Ionic app, you develop it on your computer. But to test out all those Bluetooth features, you have to actually deploy to your mobile device, and that becomes a bit challenging. You have to keep deploying over and over to your mobile device so you can test out the full Bluetooth features and other things that you want on the phone. But I hope you like my command center. Anyone new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell notification button so you get notified. We've only got a couple of minutes left. Don't forget to hit the like button as well. And we'll see if I can quickly catch up with the chat as well. I want to miss out a few things. Amadine, I'm late. Amadine, no worries. Thanks for coming, popping in and saying, hey, good to have you here. Hope you're well. I really enjoyed your live stream on Saturday. It was, I love the AMAs, kind of Ask Me Anything. I think it's really good. I had such a great discussion here today with people, and I can see concurrent viewers has grown, which is awesome. So every day I've grown by kind of, a little bit, and I think that's really, really important. Oh, Samapan says, Git Bisect seems like a binary search. I see what you mean. Yeah, I guess it's kind of searching through, but it's not searching. It's more dissecting, I suppose, 50% each time. But I suppose that's what binary search does, right? I can't even remember my binary searches, to be honest. I'd fail like a junior level interview, and I hate the word junior, so apologies for that. Well, I think in short, Ionic is you can write Angular modules, and then you can use those modules in your Ionic app or Angular. Oh, that's true. Yes, if you had like a branding library that Andrew and me have done before on our Code Mortals live stream, then you can use it in multiple places. That's true. That's quite interesting. Oh, yeah, Andrew has actually written branding library. So yeah, that's really true. Once you get into the architecture of what you can do working with Ionic Angular, it's awesome. Yeah, the ecosystem is pretty amazing. Dingan, hopefully I pronounced it right. He says, sounds good. So if it sounds good, it sounds good. So hopefully it sounds good to more people. I'm not sure which part you're referring to, but it sounds good. But it's positive, so I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna use it, and I think the community should be happy with their contribution in the chat because that's awesome. But React and React Native are so different that you can't do that there. That's true. That's true. They are quite different. Angular, because it's a framework, you do get such a nice ecosystem, and Ionic has tapped into that. I will be doing some live stream and some videos on that soon. So is it good to use Cordova and PhoneGap? I didn't know if that's still being used. I mean, I don't know if anyone else in the chat wants to just jump in. This is the last question and last one we're going to talk about because it has gone 2 o'clock. I know we all need to kind of get back to our lives. This is our 1 hour live stream that we do every weekday, 1 till 2 UK time, but everyone from around the world is welcome, and it's awesome to have you here. I will be doing more streams this week and more videos as I have reduced my client work, and I want to do more community work with you. So really looking forward to that. But I haven't heard of kind of PhoneGap in a long time. I know Ionic does use Cordova underneath, but PhoneGap I haven't heard in years, so I'm not sure about that. Andrew, what's your opinion now? When I use Ionic, it was terrible web wrapper without any native stuff, all hacks for 60 FPS, all sorts. Cordova plugins were terrible. How long ago was that you used that, Stephen? I used it a kind of Ionic 1, and it was quite awful. Now with Ionic, I don't know what version it's on, but version 2, if I remember correctly, kind of almost followed like the Angular upgrade where it was a rewrite. They re-architected it and made it a lot better. So yeah, the more recent versions of Ionic is just so different. It's a complete, I mean, it's a really British expression here, completely different kettle of fish, completely different, but solves the problem, but solves it better, and just the whole experience is much better. Senti is an error logging tool. So every time I throw an error, it will pick it up, and also logs native crashes. Awesome. I did think when I was talking about Sentry, I did think that actually I had got it wrong. I did think it was more to do with logging. So Dingang, awesome to have you here doing a live demo. We'll be doing lots of live demos coming up, so watch this space, subscribe and hit that bell button. Cool setup. Karen, thank you very much. Good to have you here. I'm glad you like my setup and my command center. We have lots more improvements to do. Soundproofing, glue has arrived, mic arrived today, so a lot better. Everyone, time we have gone over today, so I think it's time for us to say bye, but let's continue the conversation on Discord. It was absolutely awesome to have you all here, and I really loved the community collaboration. As I always say, I'm here to start the conversation and facilitate the conversation. I have a wealth of experience that I want to share with people, but I do not, by all means, do not have all the answers. But our community is amazing, and my network and community is growing all the time. I know people who do have the answers. So I really thank everyone who contributed in the chat here today by asking questions or by sharing their experiences. I think that's really important, and I will have other people coming on my channel and collaborating with me. You'll be able to see them and ask them questions from different kind of walks of life. Some people who have changed careers at a later date, some people who have been doing this since they were really young, people who work for Microsoft, people who work for Google, people who work for a startup, just to kind of get a different experiences. And I'm really keen to share that with you. So everyone, have an awesome day, and watch this space. Lots more videos and live stream coming soon, I promise. But continue the conversation with the community in the Discord channel. It's free to join, and look forward to seeing you there. Everyone, have a wicked day, and I'll catch you soon. Thanks again. Bye.